God says, strengthen your faith and find hope in God. There are days when your soul screams in silence, right? You even try to hide your tiredness with a smile. But inside, everything is falling apart. Sometimes, it seems like no one understands the weight you carry. And just at those times, that thought comes to mind, has God forgotten me? But what if I told you that He is closer than you think? That there is a calling whispering deep in your heart, and this pain you feel could be just the push that will take you to your purpose. This video is for you if you are tired, lost, or just waiting for an answer from heaven. We will talk about faith, hope, starting over, blessings that are yet to come, and how God's presence can be the safest shelter there is. Here you will not hear magic formulas, but rather truths that touch and transform from the inside out. If this topic has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel now, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs a living word today. You can be an instrument of hope for another life. Even without understanding, I choose to trust God. Write this sentence in the comments as a public commitment to your faith, and also as a silent prayer that heaven will surely hear. Constant presence of God. Do you know that feeling of being alone, even in the middle of a crowd? That anguish that tightens your chest when it seems like no one understands what you are going through? That is precisely when God's presence reveals itself most. It does not arrive with fanfare, it does not need a stage, nor does it require explanations. God manifests Himself in the details, in the silence of the early morning, in the unexpected hug, in the verse that appears when you need it most. It is in this constant presence that faith is renewed, that hope takes shape, and that love begins to heal what no one sees. You don't need to feel something supernatural to know that He is there. Just remember, all the times you couldn't handle it, but even so you didn't fall. Have you ever thought about that? God sustained you when you didn't even know how close you were to giving up. His presence doesn't depend on religion or ritual, but on an open heart. Try saying a sincere prayer in your own way. You don't need pretty words. He understands even what silence tries to hide. Practicing God's presence begins with simple habits. Reading a passage from the Psalms when you wake up, giving thanks before going to sleep, and playing music that lifts your soul during the day. These are small actions that make God's presence more tangible and constant. Because even if the world falls apart, when God is present, peace remains. Comfort and emotional healing. The pain that hurts us the most is not always the one that others see. Sometimes the wound is well hidden, camouflaged by a smile, muffled by routine, silenced by the "it's okay" that we repeat out of politeness. But God knows every tear you've hidden, every thought that's kept you awake at night, every memory that still hurts. And it's precisely in these hidden places that He wants to touch. God's comfort is not just a feeling of relief. It's a force that embraces, welcomes, and heals from the inside out. Perhaps you have tried to heal yourself by ignoring your feelings or believing that time would solve everything. But time alone does not heal. What heals is the presence of God acting in time. It is when you allow yourself to pray, even without words. It is when you open your heart and confess that you are tired, hurt, exhausted. And God responds with peace, with a word that calms, with a certainty that sustains you even in the midst of chaos. Simple practices like writing a letter to God or meditating on Isaiah 41:10 can be profound paths to healing. And if you can, talk to someone you trust. Share your pain with someone who can pray with you, because God also works through people. He is an expert in transforming traumas into testimonies and tears into seeds of faith. Forgiveness and restoration. Forgiving is not forgetting, nor pretending that it didn't hurt. Forgiving is deciding to let go of what is holding you back inside. And do you know what's even more curious? Sometimes what we need most is not to forgive others, but ourselves. How many times have you blamed yourself for past mistakes, for rash decisions, for words that shouldn't have been said? God doesn't want you to live punishing yourself. He is an expert in new beginnings, in restoration, in transforming guilt into healing. When you understand that God's forgiveness is real, that He truly forgives you when you truly repent, something inside you begins to change. That heavy feeling in your chest begins to lessen. Your soul begins to breathe, and little by little you begin to see yourself through the eyes of grace. Restoration is not about going back to who you were before the pain. It is about becoming someone who is even stronger, more aware, more aligned with God's purpose. If you find it hard to forgive someone, start by praying for that person, even if it's hard at first. And if you're the one who needs forgiveness, read Romans 8:1. It says, "There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. You were not created to live trapped in the past. You were created to live in the freedom of someone who has been reached by the love of a God who heals, transforms, and rebuilds everything that seemed lost. Faith in the storms of life. The most beautiful faith is not the one you show off when everything is going well. The strongest faith is the one that remains standing in the middle of the storm, even without understanding anything. It is when the wind blows against you, when doors close, when the ground seems to disappear, and yet you choose to trust. To trust that God is in control, to trust that there is a purpose even if you can't see it yet. It's easy to talk about faith when life is organized. But it's on difficult nights that you discover the depth of your trust in God. And if today you feel like you're in a stormy sea without direction, know that even this is being used by God to prepare you. Peter only discovered that he could walk on water when he got out of the boat in the middle of a storm. True faith grows in storms, because that's when we learn to depend on God and not on circumstances. Try writing down in a notebook the promises that God has already fulfilled in your life. You will be surprised to remember how many times you thought it would not work out. And it did. Read Matthew 6:25-34, and notice how God even takes care of the birds. Do you really think He would leave you helpless? The storm is not a sign of abandonment, but an invitation to walk closer to God. Because in the end, faith does not take us out of the struggle, but gives us the courage to go through it with hope. Unconditional love and divine protection. God's love does not depend on your performance. He does not love you more when you get it right, nor does He love you less when you get it wrong. His love is unconditional. That is, it has no clauses, no asterisks, no footnotes. It is a love that remains firm when everyone else turns their backs. It embraces you whole, even when all you can show is the pieces. This love is what sustains your soul on dark days, and it is also what lights your path when you feel lost. And along with that love comes divine protection. No, that doesn't mean nothing bad will happen. It means that even if the world tries to knock you down, you'll be protected by something greater. Have you ever noticed how many times you've escaped things that could have destroyed you? That's not luck. It's protection, it's grace, it's God holding you by the hand when you didn't even know you were about to fall. Do you want to feel this protective presence even more? Start your day by surrendering everything to God in prayer. Ask for protection not only for your body, but also for your mind, your decisions, and your emotions. Read Psalm 91 as if you were receiving a personal letter from heaven, because that is what it is. And never forget, you are deeply loved by a God who cares for you, protects you, and never abandons you, even when everything says otherwise. Inner and spiritual transformation. Real change doesn't start on the outside. There's no point in painting the walls if the foundation remains cracked. God works from the inside out. He transforms hearts, renews thoughts, and gradually changes the entire landscape of the soul. Sometimes we want everything around us to change, but heaven is more interested in making a revolution here on the inside. Because when the inside is healed, the outside naturally aligns. This spiritual transformation doesn't happen magically. It is built in daily life, in the silence of the room, in sincere prayers, in small decisions that choose God's will, even when no one is looking. And the closer you get to the divine presence, the more you realize that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. Because God doesn't use those who think they're ready. He transforms those who are available. If you want this change, start by asking, Lord, break in me what separates me from you. Then, choose a Bible reading that speaks to your reality. Romans 12 is a great place to start. Make it a habit to write down your struggles and give them to God. Spiritual transformation is a process, yes, but each step taken in faith is a miracle in progress, because when God works from within, even the seemingly impossible begins to blossom. Release from the past and a new beginning. The past, when not healed, becomes an invisible prison. Sometimes a person is alive, but unable to live. They are stuck in time, hostage to mistakes, traumas, or words that left scars. But God did not create you to live trapped in memories that paralyze you. He is an expert in new beginnings. And starting over is not about forgetting what happened. It is about learning from the pain and choosing to move forward, trusting that there is something new prepared for you. Letting go of the past starts with a decision to no longer allow it to dictate your worth. That failure, that relationship, that wrong choice, none of it defines who you are now. God looks at your heart, at your present, and sees potential where you only see guilt. And you know what's even more amazing? He uses even the broken pieces to write new beginnings. Nothing is wasted in His hands. Try this exercise. Write down on a piece of paper everything you still carry from the past, and in prayer, give it to God. Then, tear up the paper as a symbol of freedom. Start small habits that reflect this new beginning, perhaps a new Bible study, a morning prayer routine, a project you've put off out of fear. Remember, when God enters into a story, He doesn't patch things up, He renews them. Starting over isn't weakness, it's courage anointed by grace. The importance of gratitude. Gratitude changes everything, not because it changes circumstances, but because it changes the way we look at them. When you learn to be thankful even on difficult days, you are saying to heaven, I trust in you even when I don't understand. And it is this attitude that activates miracles, that attracts peace, that aligns the heart with God's will. Gratitude is the key that opens doors that human effort could never reach. Have you ever stopped to list everything that has gone right? The air you breathe, the people you love, the deliverance you didn't even notice, the strength to get up even after so many falls. All of this is a reason to praise. The daily practice of gratitude doesn't have to be complicated. A notebook, 3 reasons a day. That's it. In a short time, your mind will stop focusing on the lack and start seeing the abundance of grace. The Bible is full of examples of this. David, in the midst of persecution, sang psalms of gratitude. Paul, even in prison, wrote letters extolling God's love. And Jesus, before multiplying the loaves, gave thanks. Gratitude is the attitude of those who know the Father's heart, and the more you give thanks, the closer you get to God's presence, because those who give thanks open themselves to receive more faith, more peace, more miracles. Gratitude is the seed of blessings, divine calling and life purpose. You are not here by chance. It is no coincidence that you were born in this generation, in this place, with this story. There is a calling on your life, a mission that only you can fulfill. God does not make mistakes. He planted in you skills, experiences, and even pains that, when given to Him, become tools for the purpose. Sometimes the world tries to convince you that you are worthless, but heaven has already called you by name long before you understood who you were. Discovering your purpose is not an overnight task. It is a process. It starts with simple steps: serving, listening, praying, being willing. Sometimes God's calling begins where we least expect it, in a conversation, a volunteer effort, an idea that keeps coming back to your heart. And no, you don't have to be ready. God empowers you as He walks with you. What He wants is an obedient heart, not a flawless resume. Want some practical advice? Start by asking God, what do you want me to do with what I have today? Read Jeremiah 1:5, and reflect on how God knew you before any human opinion. Look for areas where you can serve in your daily life. Sometimes your purpose is hidden in something simple. And remember, following your calling doesn't mean a life without challenges, but a life with direction. And that changes everything. Miracles and blessings in progress. Not every miracle happens with noise. Sometimes God works in silence, behind the scenes, in details that you don't even notice, but that are paving the way for something great. There is a blessing being prepared while you pray. There is an answer being forwarded while you wait. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean God has forgotten. He works in the right time, with divine precision, even when everything seems to be at a standstill. You know that prayer you cried out on, thinking no one heard it. It was recorded in heaven, and even if the answer hasn't arrived yet, trust me, the process is also part of the miracle. The people of Israel walked for 40 years in the desert, but the promise remained alive. Sometimes the miracle is in the daily sustenance, in the strength to not give up, in the peace that comes without explanation. God's extraordinary works also happen in the little things. Create a blessings journal. Write down every small victory you experience, every door that opens, every deliverance you notice. This will help you see that God is indeed at work. Read Ephesians 3:20 and understand that what He is preparing is infinitely greater than you can imagine. Just because it is not visible yet does not mean it is not happening. Believe me, there are miracles in progress, and God does not fail to deliver. Guidance in decisions and trust in God's timing. Making decisions isn't always easy, especially when doubt is louder than certainty. Life demands choices all the time, and some of them seem too heavy for us to carry alone. But the truth is, you don't have to decide anything alone. God isn't a spectator in your life. He's the guide. He wants to be a part of every detail, from the simple to the complex. And when you trust Him with your decisions, even the uncertain things start to fall into place. It's natural to want quick answers. But God's timing is different from ours. He sees the whole picture, while we only see part of it. Sometimes His not yet is protection. Sometimes His wait is training. And when the time is right, nothing can stop it. The secret is to rest in the process, not to rush into shortcuts. Pray before you make a decision, not as a ritual, but as a sincere dialogue. Lord, show me what pleases You. Read Proverbs 3:5-6 and allow this truth to guide your steps. God is not a God of confusion. He confirms, He guides, He gives peace. And if by chance you make a mistake on the path, He is faithful to redirect you. When you walk with God, even detours become learning experiences. Trust. Those who rely on His timing will never arrive late to their destination. Family as part of the divine plan. The family is the first place where God plants seeds of love, character, and purpose. It may not be perfect, none is, but there is a divine plan behind every bond, no matter how broken it may seem. Sometimes living together is difficult, disagreements hurt, silence is hurt. But it is precisely in this challenging terrain that God works restoration, forgiveness, and miracles. He uses homes to heal, teach, and shape futures that He Himself designed. Have you ever considered that your home could be your first mission field? That your prayer could be the bridge to healing for someone in your family? God doesn't just work in temples. He dwells in the homes that invite Him in. A family environment covered by prayer, even if it has flaws, becomes fertile soil for blessings. And even if you are surrounded by conflict, your presence can be the difference, a reflection of Christ's love and peace. Start with simple gestures. Pray for each person in your home, even if silently. Declare promises of blessing and protection over your home. Read Joshua 24:15 and reaffirm your decision to serve God with your family. Sometimes you are the only one there with faith, but do not underestimate the power of a seed planted with love. God honors those who remain steadfast, and when He begins to act in the family, there is no wall that will remain standing. Perseverance in the face of pain and opposition. The journey of faith is not always smooth. Sometimes it seems that the closer you get to God, the more struggles you face. Unexpected pain, criticism, doors that close, people who don't understand your process. But know this, opposition is a sign of movement. Those who are still don't bother anyone, but those who move forward with their purpose attract resistance. And that's exactly where perseverance comes in as a spiritual weapon. God didn't promise an easy road, but He did promise faithful companionship. He didn't say there would be no pain, but He did promise comfort. What's more, He turns tears into seeds. Every step of faith you take in the midst of pain, every decision to keep going even when you're tired, is being seen and valued by the one who knows your heart. Perseverance isn't about denying the pain. It's about walking through it with your eyes fixed on the promises. When opposition comes, be strong in the Word. Read James 1:12 and understand the value of constancy. Make it a habit to pray even when you don't feel like it, to praise even when you don't get an answer, to serve even when you're criticized. Because those who remain reap, and you're not alone. There's an army of angels on your side and a God who never abandons His people. Pain may scream, but hope whispers louder. And in the end, those who trust always win. Power of prayer and reading the Word. Prayer is more than just talking. It's opening your heart and allowing God to enter the most hidden areas of your soul. And God's Word, it's nourishment. It's guidance. It's like a letter written directly to you, with answers the world can never give. When prayer and Bible reading become habits, your spirit is strengthened, your mind is aligned, and your heart finds peace even in the midst of chaos. You don't have to complicate things. Start with 5 minutes a day. Talk to God as if you were talking to a loving Father. Don't worry about pretty words. Sincereness is what moves heaven. Then choose a passage from the Bible and meditate on it. The Psalms are a great place to start, especially in times of anguish. The Gospels bring the heart of Jesus to the surface in a clear and profound way. Write down the verses that speak to you. Reread them. Pray over them. Memorize them. The Word is alive and acts as a sword, as a healer, as a guide. And prayer is the thread that connects you directly to heaven. Do you want transformation? Do you want strength? Do you want wisdom? Pray, read, repeat. When these two pillars become part of your day, you don't just survive, you flourish, because those who live in communion with God never walk alone. Wisdom to face challenges. Challenges are part of life. No one can escape them. But what changes everything is how you face them. Some people react impulsively with haste, fear, or anger, but those who walk with God learn to seek wisdom before taking any action. And wisdom is not just having knowledge, it is knowing the right time to speak, to be silent, to act, to wait. It is discerning what comes from God and what is disguised distraction. James 1:5 says that if anyone lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously. In other words, you don't have to face your dilemmas based on your own guesswork. There is an inexhaustible source of guidance at your disposal. You just have to look for it. And believe me, many times deliverance comes precisely from a wise decision that avoided a mistake later on. Want a practical tip? When faced with any decision or problem, pray first. Don't make decisions in the heat of the moment. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to God or further away from God? Start writing down the advice you hear most often in prayer and filter everything in the light of the Word. Divine wisdom is not noisy. It is subtle, firm, and always peaceful. Those who act wisely do not avoid challenges, but face each one with balance, clarity, and faith. And that is what makes you grow. Daily acts of kindness and faith. True faith does not live only in thought. It is revealed in actions. And it doesn't have to be anything grand. Sometimes a word of encouragement, a gesture of compassion, a silent help is all someone needs to see God's love in practice. Daily kindness is like a seed. You plant it today, and God makes it bloom in due time. And those who plant with faith reap miracles where the world only saw impossibilities. The problem is that many people think that serving God is something reserved for big things. But the truth is that small acts, when done with love and purpose, have an eternal impact. A sincere good morning, a silent prayer for someone, a "how are you?" asked from the heart. This is faith in action. This is bringing light where there is darkness. How about starting a new habit? Choose one intentional act of kindness each day. It could be sending a message, listening to someone attentively, or even donating something you no longer use. Read Galatians 6:9. It reminds you that even if no one sees, God sees, and He rewards every act of love. Living your faith isn't about waiting for big moments. It's about transforming ordinary days into living expressions of God's presence in you, promises that are fulfilled at the right time. Waiting is not easy. We pray, we believe, we dream, but time doesn't seem to cooperate. But God's clock is not like ours. He is neither late nor early. He acts at the exact moment. Sometimes the promise seems distant, and our hearts begin to doubt. But remember, God does not lie. If He promised, He will fulfill it. The question is not with will happen, but when. And while the right time does not come, He prepares you. Abraham waited years for a son. Joseph was betrayed and forgotten before he saw his dreams come true. David was anointed king, but lived on the run before he sat on the throne. They all had one thing in common. They trusted the process. Waiting can be uncomfortable, but it is in waiting that faith is strengthened, character matures, and trust deepens. The promise is certain, but time is sacred. How about writing down the promises you carry in your heart today? Pray about them. Read Habakkuk 2:3, and keep this truth in mind. If it delays, wait for it will surely come. It will not delay. While you wait, God acts. He moves invisible pieces, prepares people, changes scenarios. And when it arrives, it will be so perfect that you will understand why it took so long. God does not forget what He promised you. He only wants to give it to you when you are ready to live in fullness. Victory over fear and enemies. Fear is a silent enemy. It doesn't scream, but it paralyzes. It whispers lies, distorts reality, and tries to convince you that you can't do it, that God has forgotten you, that the worst will happen. But the truth is different. God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but of courage, power, and balance. And when you lean on this truth, fear begins to lose its strength, because those who walk with God are never alone, and that is already a victory in itself. What about your enemies? Not all of them wear armor or a sword. Sometimes they are critics, envious, harsh words, injustices. But even in these cases, God acts. He prepares a table in the presence of those who insult you. He defends you when you choose to trust. You don't need to retaliate. You need to rest, because God's justice is perfect, and He honors those who choose to walk in peace. Want a powerful practice? Every time fear strikes, declare Psalm 27:1 out loud. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Write down your fears and give them in prayer. Then tear up the paper as a symbol of your trust. Remember, the enemy roars, but he has no power over those who are covered by the presence of God. Victory is not the absence of struggle, but the certainty that in the end, you will come out stronger and closer to your purpose. New season of miracles and abundance. There are times when the sky changes seasons without warning. Suddenly, what was scarcity turns into provision. What was crying turns into harvest. God is an expert at turning pages. And perhaps, without you realizing it, a new season is already beginning in your life. A phase marked by unexpected miracles and an abundance that goes far beyond the material. An abundance of peace, of faith, of purpose, of divine presence. But be careful. Every new season requires preparation. You can't experience something new with yesterday's mindset. So start by aligning your heart with heaven. And God for discernment to perceive the signs, wisdom to deal with the blessings, and maturity to not get lost in the midst of them. Because miracles are incredible, but the most important thing is to keep your heart in the right place, surrendered, sensitive, full of gratitude. Reread Isaiah 43:19, and let this promise guide your thinking. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Make plans in faith, declaring God's favor over every area of your life. Align your habits with what you hope to experience. The new season does not depend on the calendar. It depends on your willingness to believe that God's best is yet to come, and it is closer than you think. God as shelter, beacon, and source of strength. When everything falls apart, it's natural to want to run away, hide, find a place where the pain can't reach. And that's where God reveals himself as a shelter. Not a hiding place to escape, but a safe haven where the weary soul can rest. He welcomes you without judgment, dries your tears, strengthens your spirit. In times of storm, he doesn't just protect, he calms your heart while the rain still falls outside. And when the path seems dark and directionless, God becomes a beacon. He illuminates you step by step, even if you can only see the next meter. He doesn't reveal everything at once because he wants you to trust. And each time you choose to follow in his light, fear dissolves and peace takes its place. God's direction is always firm, even when the road is uncertain. And when you lack strength, God becomes a source of encouragement, courage, and renewed faith. He doesn't ask you to have everything under control. He just wants you to connect with him. Read Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. True strength comes when you recognize your weakness and allow him to sustain you. Because those who find their shelter, light, and strength in God are never lost again. Now that you've covered each of these points, stop for a moment and breathe. Which of these messages spoke most strongly to your heart? In what area of your life is God asking you to trust more, to surrender more, to start over with faith? The truth is that knowing doesn't change anything if we don't take action. So, I invite you, choose a single step today, a habit, a prayer, a decision, something that represents your response to what God is saying to you right now, because faith without action is just intention, but faith with action is living transformation. Are you ready to live what God has prepared, or will you continue carrying the weight that he is already calling you to release? Leave a comment below with what touched you the most. Share your experience. Other hearts also need your voice. And if this video spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and follow the next content that will continue to strengthen your faith, renew your hope, and rekindle your purpose.